From the 1925 release of Battleship Potemkin to the 1975 Soviet dramatic comedy Moscow Does Not Believe in Tears, Soviet cinema has been a product of entertainment and a tool of manufactured reflection of national image. By examining Grigory Volonchuk from Battleship Potemkin, Ivan from Circus, Boris from The Cranes Are Flying, and Gosha from Moscow Does Not Believe in Tears, we are going to explain what the Soviet male archetype is. These films portrayed men to have specific characteristics that were meant to be a reflection of ideal masculinity in the Soviet Union. These characteristics gained respect from their peers and in turn the audience who viewed them as positive characters that one could hope to embody in their daily lives. The Soviet male is the product of Soviet cinema that sculpts the masculinity to create the image of the perfect Soviet man. The Soviet male is someone that is strong in physique, attractive, intellectually superior, and supportive of Soviet patriotism. Battleship Potemkin, directed by Sergei Eisenstein, is remembered as one of the best propagandist films created in early Soviet cinema. This film from 1925 focuses on the struggle of a boat crew to be treated fairly and how it inspired those who heard the story to take a stand for brotherhood. Though there is not many individual characters, one must examine Grigory Bakulinch when discussing the ideal Soviet male in this film. He has the appearance of a common Soviet individual. His facial hair and gestures are similar to most Soviet males, making him easy to identify as a Soviet. His hard-working characteristics are evident in how he presents himself. After finally being disgusted with how the higher-ranking officers have been treating them, he initiates a mutiny. Bakulinch decides to stand up for his fellow brothers and rally the rest of the crew after the officers make an attempt to execute a group of sailors. Bakulinch supported the Soviet cause because he recognized reinforcing the importance of brotherhood and believed that every man was to be treated equally, thus presenting Bakulinch as the ideal Soviet man. Circus is a 1936 film by Grigory Alexandrov following Marion and her struggle to find her place in the Soviet Union. Ivan is the person who helps her the most. Our first impression of Ivan is one that conveys his strength, attractiveness, and respectability. Ivan is able to carefully restrain Ludwig and disarm him, expressing his strength. His familiarity with the handgun, as portrayed through his disarmament and precision, along with his outfit that resembles a military uniform, expresses his character as one to be compared to a disciplined Soviet soldier. Ivan also is very good with women in that he wins the heart and affection of Marion. This first example is when he gracefully throws the bouquet of flowers to Marion as she is flying throughout the circus. This display of suave and precision hits home the characteristics of the Soviet male. In the end of the film, Soviet ideology is embraced by Marion and her black child because of her relationship with Ivan in that he exposed her to the acceptance found in the USSR that she sought after all along. The 1957 film The Cranes Are Flying, directed by Mikhail Kalatsev, is a World War II film following the protagonist Veronica struggling through life without the companionship of her significant other, Boris. Boris represents the Soviet male in several aspects. He is well respected by his family members, peers, and fellow soldiers. In this scene, Boris and his comrade Nikitin are trudging through a battlefield that resembles that of no man's land. With the sound and visuals of gunfire and explosions, Boris bravely moves on in order to accomplish their mission. At this moment, Nikitin collapses from enemy fire or exhaustion. The reason is ambiguous. Upon his collapse, Boris picks him up and carries him in order to both save his life and see through to their mission. This scene serves as evidence to reinforce the points of how Boris resembles the Soviet male. His willingness and courage is expressed through his actions in saving the life of his fellow comrade. In the scene following, Boris undergoes his death. In his final moments, he fantasizes his wedding with Veronica, surrounded by his friends and family. The sequence provides context to the weight of his sacrifice for the Soviet cause. Although he loved Veronica deeply, as emphasized in this scene and throughout the film, he paid the ultimate sacrifice in supporting the Soviet Union in the ideals and preservation of brotherhood. The 1979 Soviet dramatic comedy Moscow Does Not Believe in Tears, directed by Vladimir Menshov, won an Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. The image of Gosha is to be seen almost as an anomaly. The character is introduced a bit over halfway through the movie. Throughout his appearance in the film, he reveals more and more to his intellectualism, strength, and respect. We are first introduced to him as a random man on the train attempting to make conversation with Katya. His ability to assess Katya simply on her appearance and facial expressions expresses his own intelligence. After further pursuing her, Katya eventually accepts Gosha's invite to join him in a picnic with his friends. His friends praise him and his accomplishments to inform Katya and her daughter on who he is in a passive attempt to make him less of a stranger to them. From the appraisal of his peers and proof of his intelligence, it is evident that Gosha is a well-respected individual that is a prime example to the Soviet male. Another scene that further supports this is the dark alley fight scene where Gosha and his friends succeed in defending Alexander's boyfriend in a fight against a group of 5 young men. To the surprise of the attackers and the audience, Gosha successfully takes down 3 of the 5 attackers with ease. In the scene's graceful portrayal of Gosha's fighting ability and strength, it further proves him as a prime example of the Soviet male. The examples presented in this video all evidently possess the characteristics of the Soviet male. The narrative of the films themselves present each character as one that possessed respect, intelligence, strength, and will for the Soviet cause. The Soviet male was a sculpted product created by a generation of cinema that is native to the Soviet Union in an attempt to create the image of a perfect Soviet man.